Our next speaker is Bill Jones. Bill comes from 6 generations of central Montana cattle ranchers working on the Two Dot Land and Livestock Company, land founded in 1908 south of Harleton, Montana. Bill has shown a continuous love for Montana and Montana history in his life, assisting in museum management in not only Harleton, Montana, but in Martinsdale at the Bear Family Museum, Bozeman at the Gallatin History Museum, and currently as a trustee on the Montana Historical Society Board. Please give a warm welcome to Bill Jones and his presentation, Wheatland County, How Mountains, Homesteaders, a High School, and a Courthouse Split Meagher County. Bill Jones.
Thank you. Cassie and I have a connection in Harleton. Her grandfather lives there, and often eat lunch with him at the senior center. So it's a small world. Okay, this is Meagher County in the late 1800s, and this is down close to Lavina. In the center where the hump is, that's where Wheatland County is now, Golden Valley County, but ignore all the busy stuff but this is what the county looked like in the late 1800s. Okay, originally this was Native American lands, as we all know and are aware. We belonged to the French, the Spain, we belonged to back to the French, and then we bought the Louisiana Purchase. And we became the District of Louisiana, a Louisiana Territory, and we were an organized Indian Territory, and then we were the Great Plains area with no government, and became Nebraska Territory. We could be corn huskers. We became Dakota Territory, and in 1863, the Idaho Territory, east and west of the Continental Divide. In 1864, the Montana Territory was formed, and it was split because of the mining activity, and we wanted to have government closer. And in western Montana, it lobbied to be in Montana. They didn't want to have to go over those mountains into Idaho. The first legislative session in Bannock, the first counties were Missoula, Choteau, Madison, Deer Lodge, Beaverhead, Jefferson, Bighorn, and Dawson. Dawson was dropped, and Edgerton and Gallatin were added. In 1867, Meagher County was formed from Gallatin. In Diamond City, which lays several miles west of White Sulphur, became the county seat due to all the mining in that area. Edgerton was dropped, mainly because no one liked the former governor, and it was renamed Lewis and Clark County. By 1889, during statehood, 8 more counties were added, and by 2015, 24 more were added. In 1917, Wheatland and Carter counties were added, and by 1925, 13 more were added, with 7 in 1919 alone, for a total of 56. In 1894, Ralph Berry, one of the Berry brothers that founded the Winnicott Ranch Company in 1880, proposed a county in the Musselshell watershed from a point 6 miles west of Martinsdale to the Big Bend of the Musselshell. One officer of this county that draws a salary of $1,500. In today's dollar, that would have been $56,000. That's salary per year, and he boards around with the people. So there wasn't a central area that would be a county seat or anything like that. And this was a county that would have been about 130 miles long. At this time, the Jawbone Railroad was coming into the Musselshell Valley. The Billings and Northern Line was being surveyed, which became the Great Northern. And large ranches were being bought by land companies in anticipation of homesteaders. And large ranches were being bought. The large ranches owned the water. They owned the springs and the creeks. They didn't necessarily own the land around it. But they owned the water so they could control the grazing. The first test of voter power shift in Meagher County from the west side of the Castle Mountains to the east side of the Castle Mountains was over a proposal for a new Meagher County High School in White Sulphur Springs. Harlowton was founded in 1900, but they had this proposal for this new school, and it failed 314 to 388, and failed by 74 votes. So in 1902, there was the first indication that the power was shifting from western Meagher County to eastern Meagher County. And the people in the east were angry because they didn't think they were getting representation. And C.P. Tooley was elected as a state representative from the eastern side of Meagher County. And why the county division? Well, there was poor roads, and it was 60 miles to the county seat, and you had two options. You could go west and go on the north fork of the Musselshell and go up over by Copperopolis and over that divide, which in the winter is impassable. Or you could go down the south fork to the Lenape, Loweth, Ringling area, and then up to White Sulphur. Either way, took a long time. And taxation was an issue, and infrastructure. There was no money coming to the eastern end of the county for roads and those kind of things. And so that was another reason. And representation in Helena, which was starting to be recognized. Okay, in March 1906, splitting the county started to gain traction. The jawbone was being sold to the Milwaukee Railroad, and the railroad would be coming west up the Musselshell Valley from the Forsyth area. In 1909, the Musselshell Valley wanted the county seat or a new county, and that was a proposal that was made. White Sulphur Springs agonized. They were willing to split, but did not want to lose the county seat. There were some editorials, and the Meagher County Republican said cost of transporting records and build courthouse in Harlow would cost $200,000, which I think is inflated. Stated Harlow was on its last legs. The Harlow editor says, the Republican editor let forth a howl, which sounded like a mournful wail of a starving hound on a desert land. So there were some interesting editorials back and forth during this division process. The Harlowton boosters made a decision to form a new county, Merino County. And this map is from a master's thesis and a friend of mine, Hal Stearns, did back in the 60s for his master's at the University of Montana. And this shows Tudot would be right in this area. This is down, Melville is up in this area, Glaston Lake's down in this area, and Judith Gap's up in this area, Hedgesville over in this area, and Harlowton's kind of in the middle. That was the first proposal. And they proposed going 20 miles south to the Glaston Lakes in Sweetgrass County. Our ranch lays on this township line right here. As you come into our ranch, at that time, on your right-hand side was Sweetgrass County, on the left-hand side was Meagher County. So we were straddling the line. Another contentious election that showed the division was in May of 1911. And that proposal was to build a new courthouse in White Sulphur Springs. And that failed by 64 votes, 55% against in the east and 45% for in the west. So that was another vote that it caused some consternation in the western part. When they figured in all the rural areas around White Sulphur and around Harlow, the total vote was 279 for, 343 against. So even though the votes in the two communities were close, the rural areas carried the no vote. This is another new proposal. Tudot which is right in here, wanted to stay in Meagher County. So they wanted the county line 1 mile east of TUDOT. And they added area over here that was in Musselshell County at that time. And the reason for doing that was a proposal from Hedgesville. And Hedgesville wanted all these homesteaders and whatnot in this area to vote for them for the county seat. And I have some friends here from Hedgesville that families would have been involved in some of this. And there started to be some contention up here north of Judith Gap, where they wanted to go farther up in the Judith Basin to pull in those votes for the county division and for the county seat. Okay, in those days when a new county was formed, there had to be at least $5 million in assessed value in the new county. And the old county, or the counties you were taking the land from, had to have a $5 million assessed value left. So you can imagine the spreadsheets these people were using to move, like every township was a piece of the puzzle, and they would move those around and to make sure they were coming up with a $5 million bond. Okay, and this is where Judith Gap wants to include 10 miles north into Fergus County, and the Homesteaders would vote for the Judith Gap for the seat, and there was an opposition to the name Merino. And the comment was made, it was suggestive of the sheep industry, and abandoned sheep will just be a curiosity in a few years. In 1909, in the state of Montana, there was 6,640,000 sheep. Today, there's a couple 100,000. Booster said that this would become the richest ag area in the state, and alfalfa can be raised in all sections, so let's name it Alfalfa County. Well, the Homesteaders are not in agreement, and they proposed Richland, Oka, and or Judith Basin. And the Harleton area chose Wheatland. Okay, why Wheatland? Here is a graph that shows wheat production, wheat marketed in the Harleton area in 1910, 1911, 1912, and 1913. And I use a yield of 25 bushel. And actually the yield was lower than that. But what I'm showing is the amount of acres that were being grown in those from 1910, 55 acres of wheat were grown. In 1913, 60,000 acres were grown. And also the Harleton had the only storage unit along the railroad, the largest storage unit in Montana of 350,000 acres, or bushels, and that facility still stands. When Harlow's long gone, the mill, the storage unit, the moose, and the burned out State Theater, but the only things left standing there is the coyotes go through. But it's a well-built facility. Okay, the Harlow supporters were nervous with the Homesteaders moving into the area north and east of Judith Gap. They felt they could lose the the election for the county seat. And Harlow opposed the strip of 10 miles north into Judith Basin County. And Harlow boosters proposed the area east of Hedgesville and Judith Gap and north. Each area would have a county road to their homestead. So this is a map from 1922. And Harleton sits down here, Judith Gap is up here, Shaman is down here, here's Hedgesville, Nye Hill, and so you see these lines, these are all county roads that were being planned to be built around these sections and So everybody would be like the Midwest. Every section had a county road around it. So everybody had a county road to their farmstead. A lot of these roads were started. Most of them have been abandoned. There's still a few of them in existence. Okay, this is the new Wheatland County map that was developed. And Harlow had lost the Judith Gap support when they opposed the Fergus County strip. And so, whoops. This strip up here going up into Judith Basin County for a distance didn't make the cut. Okay, in 1914, they had a county vote to split the county, but it didn't receive the required 2/3 vote. And for Wheatland County was 837, and White Sulphur Springs there was for White Sulphur to stay 760, in a total vote of 1,602. So here's a vote total. In 1902, there were 702 votes cast. 1911, 622. 1,602 in 1914. In 1916, 3,200. Part of that is due to homesteaders moving in. And I show there where 2,131 votes were in the eastern part of the county and 1,069 are in the western part. Part of that is due to women being able to vote. In 1914, women received the right to vote in Montana. Before that, women could vote, in the late 1800s, they were given the right to vote on education and taxation issues. So the women in Montana were given the right to vote in 1914. Okay, in fall 1916, E.C. Baxter, Republican, was elected as a representative, and William Jones was elected as a senator from Mark County, and they were my great-grandfather and my grandfather. And William Jones introduced Senate Bill 58, which introduced, and then the House passed it 71-17, and Wheatland County became a county on April 1st, 1917. And they had after that, they passed a law that says you have to live in the district you represent, because E.C. Baxter lived on the ranch in Sweetgrass County and represented Marr County. Now he lives on the ranch in Wheatland County and is still representing Marr County. And William Jones lived in Harleton and represented Marr County, and now he lives in Harleton in Wheatland County and is still representing Marr County. So some change, and this not only happened there, but it happened in many other counties too. They had to make some changes. And they had a celebration dinner in, what was the date of that? I think it was June 5th, 1917. They had a celebration dinner for the formation of the county that they held at the Graves Hotel in Harleton. And William E. Jones was the speaker. Well, in my research years ago, I stumbled on the menu for that celebration. So on June 2nd, 2017, the Grace Hotel prepared that menu. And it was fried chicken and corn and peas, and I think it was apple pie. We redid the same menu, and I was the speaker for that one. So it was kind of interesting. Okay, let's look at some of the economic conditions and world events before, during, and after 1917. In 1912, many of the homesteaders were delinquent on taxes in proposed Wheatland County. On April 6, 1917, the United States enters World War I. The U.S. set the price of wheat during World War I at $2.50 a bushel. In today's dollar, that was $60 a bushel. That encouraged farmers to plant wheat. They borrowed money to buy machinery, seed, and hire labor to seed everything they could. And that's in November 11th, 1918, when the World War I ended, prices collapsed. The population growth in Montana from 1864 to 1889 was up 650%. Went from 20,000 to 130,000. 1890 to 1910, we went from 130,000 to 376,000, up 289%. In 1921 to 2017, we were up 217%, up to a million. In 1912, that's when splitting started in earnest in Montana. And the largest influx of settlers in the United States was into Montana. And the largest outmigration in the United States was in Montana because of drought and bank conditions and everything else. The Montana was the only state to lose population, and from 1920 to 1929. The tax burden in Montana at this time in 1912, the average per capita was $26.83. That was the highest in the United States. In 1913, 33 counties owed $16 million. In 1921, 54 counties' debt was $60 million, $110 for every man, woman, and child. The cost of county debt had increased 108%. Interest on the county debt had increased 271%. Roads, bridges, building expenses, all had increased 300%. Miscellaneous debt in these counties had increased 592%. In 1914 to 1920, the number of school children increased 42%, and the cost of education increased 145%. And the drought deepened in 1917 and into 1919. Now, there was a fellow in Glasgow called, his last name was McKay. He was known as a county splitter. And he was in favor of creating 300 counties in Montana. He didn't like Anaconda Company, he didn't like the railroads, and he didn't like cattlemen. Interesting, he didn't like the railroads because the railroad is what hauled all the homesteaders in, and conversely hauled all the homesteaders back out again. But he was, if you think of Wheatland County, take every county in the state right now and split it 5 or 6 ways, and you'll get to the 300 counties. So think of your communities in these counties. We could have had a county seat in Tudot, Harleton, Shawmut, Hedgesville, and Judith Gap. We could have had 5 counties. But every one of those had to have elected officials, had to have county commissioners, sheriff's department, had to have a courthouse, all this stuff. They were about, he was about creating jobs. The seed liens on property were instituted to enable farmers to purchase seed. Tax levies grew to service debt. The revenue declined due to foreclosure on farm properties and declining assessed valuations. In 1921, a score of counties were bankrupt. The state of Montana had a deficit of $3 million. $10 million was outstanding in delinquent taxes, and nearly all of this was due from farmers and ranchers. Almost entire burden of the tax fell on real estate. Montana was confiscating its citizens' property to maintain the function of government. The 1913 tax per acre of land was 7 cents. In 1921, that tax was up to 16 cents, up 140%. The rates of tax foreclosures was second highest in the United States, only behind Mississippi. Taxes were unpaid on 1/3 of all land. In 5 years, 1920 to 1925, the valuation of Montana farms and ranches dropped a staggering $320 million. think of what happened in 2008 with the real estate crisis. This happened in 1925, $320 million. These people were all underwater when it came to mortgages on their ranches. Montanans had done this to Montanans. Only they could vote for these county splits. The farmers and ranchers had contributed 42% of state support, and they could do no more. Thank you.